So last time, we talked about the philosophy of purpose. I helped go over a specific way that we can figure out what our purpose is. I also talked about why we care so much about what our purpose is. And it really came down to the point that up until just a few hundred years ago, the main thing people were trying to do was survive, was to not die. But now, that's not that difficult. We have a lot of homeless people who are surviving pretty easily. So the dominant need now is, what do I do with the rest of my time? Today, I'm going to talk about the philosophy of identification. And to do that, I'm going to start by asking, how many of you have ever really craved a cheeseburger? Yeah. And when you eat a cheeseburger, how does it feel? When you really crave it, is it pleasurable? Does it feel happy? Now, this is a rhetorical question because I know I love cheeseburgers. I crave one at least once a week, and when I eat a cheeseburger, I feel really happy. How long do you feel happy for? 5 minutes. Whoa, that's a pretty low number. I can get a good hour. If I'm really craving a cheeseburger and I eat a cheeseburger, I can get a good hour of happiness off of that. Just elated. So let's start there. How much is a good cheeseburger? A decent cheeseburger. How much money? $3?
A decent one? You got a McDonald's?
Decent. Your McDonald's is not decent.
$25.
I'm calling $5. I'm calling $5. $5 for a cheeseburger. Cheeseburger. You want fries with that? Of course we do. $2 for fries. No, that's borderline irresponsible. So we've got $7 for a meal, okay? $7. I'm not going to get a drink. I'm just going to drink water. $7 for a meal for about an hour of happiness. Now that's actually a pretty standard number if you look at it. I mean, how much does a movie cost?
15.
About 15. You going to get popcorn? Of course you're going to get popcorn. Add on another 10, maybe another 15, depending on how much popcorn you get. And you can get a good 2-hour movie, maybe an hour of hangout time with your friends afterwards, and it rounds out close to $7 an hour. So this is a nice general number to use. Let's play with that number a little bit. I'm going to show you kind of the general scheme of how to make a physics problem real quick. If you want to go to sleep, now's the time. So we're going to start with $7 per hour, and I want to get to money per week. How many hours in a day would we need to be happy for? How much time do you spend sleeping?
8 hours.
8 hours a night? Okay, so 16 hours a day. We need 16 hours a day. 16 hours in a day. Huh? How many days in a week? 7. Good job. I knew you guys were smart. 7 days in a week. Okay, now the reason this is the general idea of a physics problem is you've got the units here. They cancel out because they're dividing. Boop, boop. Now you get money per week. So let's calculate that. How much money per week? So $7 times 16 hours times 7 days. That gets me $784. $784 per week. Okay. So if I wanted to use this strategy to be happy all the time, it would cost me $784 a week. And that's using a fairly reasonable, kind of lowballed number. I'm not buying a boat here. Now, how much money would I need to make at a job to afford that? We can calculate it. Good for us. $784 per week. And we work 40 hours in a week. Now, the way we do this, we've got weeks on bottom, so now we've got to put weeks on top. So 1 week is 40 hours. There we go. Weeks cancel out, now we get money per hour. So 784 divided by 40. I've done this calculation so many times, I don't really even need to do it anymore. $19.60 an hour. I'm not figuring taxes. Thank you so much, Bambi. So now we're looking at $26 an hour. If we figure taxes in, it's about $26 an hour that you need to make, which is around $60,000 a year. So this seems like a silly exercise, but I have a point. This wouldn't even be enough to make this, by the way, because you've also got a house that may not bring you pleasure every waking moment. You may have, kids that may not bring you pleasure every waking moment that you've got to pay for still. So that number actually is going to go up. This is also a lowballed number. This is just cheeseburgers and movies. A lot of people have a strategy for happiness of being able to afford every waking moment having pleasure. That is the money strategy. I talked about how we can get outside of the ikigai strategy last time. Some people think that they can get enough money to make them happy. That's what this strategy is. The reason so many people believe this strategy is because that $60,000 a year number, that's like a mid-level manager, mid-level engineer. That takes a long time to get to. By that time, most people have kids. Most people have a home. Most people have a lot of extra stuff, and they pass along this strategy for happiness. It isn't until their 40s and 50s, when they are able to attain this, that they realize it doesn't work, and I've been spending my entire life chasing a strategy that doesn't work. And now I've got a midlife crisis. Congratulations. So this is how we buy happiness if we're trying to get it from outside of ourselves. It's one strategy. But we've talked about this already. We've talked about the only real way to have happiness is to find truth. Because even if you could make enough money to make this work, if you have a cheeseburger in 1 hour and it makes you really happy, how do you feel if you have a second cheeseburger an hour later? Is it going to give you as much happiness? No. If you're really hungry, even if you're really hungry, I could get an hour off the first one. If I'm super hungry, I might be able to get 20 minutes off the second one. That's called diminishing returns. That's the key factor here. Because even if I buy everything I want, it's not going to be as nice. It's not going to feel as good every time. I could just buy something. Each purchase feels less. Because of diminishing returns, this price is going to go up exponentially. So we need something that doesn't stop working. We need something that doesn't become less over time. What we need is truth. Well, this strategy used getting external influences to make happiness by paying money. So what do we pay for truth? Any ideas? $20,000, and all of this truth could be yours. Order now. That's really why I'm recording these. Any other ideas?
Time.
Alan? Time? Okay. What philosophers of old realized is they bought it with reason. How do we reason? What do we use to reason?
Discussion.
Words. Thoughts, discussion, those are both bigger picture than words. Good job, guys. We use words. Words are basically just representations of a meaning. Words are made of definitions. Words are to definitions as a flag is to a country. It's just a sound that represents a meaning. So we need to tackle the meaning. So I'm going to give you an example. What's your definition of science look like? Anybody want to share theirs? Here, how about I start this? How about I give you the dictionary's definition of science? Strap yourselves in, it's a doozy. The intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. That is a mouthful. How many of you had that one in your head? When I said, what's your definition? How many of you were like, I would share, but it's just so long. I've got it. I wrote it in my head. No one. It's a great definition if I'm trying to have an exhaustive definition that covers everything, or if I'm trying to make a definition that anyone who doesn't know the language or isn't familiar with the word in the first place can understand, but it's useless for everyday use. It's not practical. It's not the definition I have in my head. The definition in my head is a tool for determining truth. So when I practice science, I'm using it as a tool to determine truth. A hammer isn't science because it's a tool, but it's not for determining truth. Science and philosophy are different because science is very rigid. It's focused on an exact truth, where philosophy is more about looking at more ideas, looking at what else could truth be. Philosophers are the ones who recognize that we are definitely not at truth yet. We are somewhere over here and we're trying to get closer. You'll notice this if you ever take a university class on philosophy. Philosophy teachers often are great at considering any idea imaginable, and they have a really hard time nailing down what they actually believe. Science professors are the exact opposite. They know exactly what they believe and why. They have firm scientific evidence, and because I've got firm scientific evidence, no, I'm not going to think of your crazy idea. That's stupid. That's kind of our difference there. So in order to purchase truth, we need to get good definitions. But that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of effort. Next time, I'm going to be covering more strategies to figure out what those definitions might look like. But this time, I want to give you one specific strategy. And I'm going to do that through an allegory. Does anybody know what an allegory is? What's an allegory? It's a story to explain a principle. And traditionally, allegories, unlike most stories which present a moral, an allegory generally presents a question. It's kind of a cheap way to get around it. I don't actually have something important to tell you, but you might have something important to answer. Philosophers are able to sound really smart without knowing anything at all. But my allegory is called The Tragedy of the Commons.
Of the what?
Of the Commons.
Commons?
Commons. Do you want me to write it?
Yeah.
All right. Hope I can spell it right. Tragedy of the Commons. We're going to start it in a small fishing village in the faraway magical land of Nebraska. In this magical land of Nebraska, you live. Oh, I hope the blue works. I didn't test it. Yeah, it does. Perfect. In this fishing village, there's you, spitting image, with 3 of your neighbors. This fishing village has a single pond to sustain it. That pond can support 12 and exactly 12 fish. I shouldn't say exactly, up to 12 fish, no more than 12 fish. Because it's in the magical land of Nebraska, if you put a 13th fish in, that 13th fish will immediately die.
Wow.
And because it's also a magical land, if there's room for them, overnight, 2 fish, any pairs, will reproduce, creating a baby fish, which will grow to maturity immediately. Okay? Science. Magic. My question to you, how many fish can you take in order to have as many fish as possible? I'm looking for a response.
How many fish can the mommy and daddy fish have?
One a night. How many fish can you take? 1.5? Okay, Alan, we're going to round up to 2. So Alan takes 2. Jennifer, Alan's taking 2. How many do you take? 1? Okay. Rob? How many do you take? What? 3. Okay. All right, Ben, Rob's taking 3. How many are you going to take? 6. Okay, great. So Ben maxed out at 6, and now there's no more fish, and tomorrow we all starve. Congratulations. You guys did it. So let's try again. Let's start with a different number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. let's say we start out with 2 and everyone else is conservative and goes, I'm only hungry for 1 today. So there goes 2. There goes 1 for each other person. Now, overnight, these 3 reproduce. We get 3 new fish the next day. Now we have 10. Next day, everybody takes the same amount. You lose 2, plus another 3. And overnight, we get 2 more. You can see we're going down. This isn't sustainable. This is what we call those diminishing returns, right? So, any other ideas? How many you want to take? Let's try 1. Each person takes 1 fish, then we lose 4 each day. And we have 4 pairs, and overnight they each reproduce, giving us 4. Beautiful. Now we're back up to 12. So every day the pond replenishes, and we can have infinite fish over infinite time. Beats your 6.
Whoa.
Now here's my question. That's our only sustainable way for 4 people. That's the only way 4 people can be sustained indefinitely. But let's say Alan does have his brother come to town, and he says, well, today I need to take 2 fish. 1 for me, 1 for my brother. And we do get in this situation. How do we come back? How do we get back to sustainable? Any ideas? Alan goes hungry for 1 day to make up for the 2 fish? Okay, so Alan goes hungry for 1 day. So we're going to go back. Okay, so Alan goes hungry for 1 day, and everyone else takes their 1 fish. Now we lost 3. So next day, we get 3 more back. And we still have not replenished. So Alan's going to have to go hungry another day, and then another day, until he dies. Good way to murder Alan. Any other ideas?
If you had good neighbors, each neighbor would go on.
The only way to come back, if 1 person takes 2 fish in a day, the only way to come back is for 2 people to go hungry. Because if that happens, then 2 people don't eat. These 2 do eat, so we lose those.